It is Friday, April 14th. Welcome, everybody. John Aravosis here with the Aravosis Report coming to you live from Washington, D.C. As always, we're going to wait a couple minutes for folks to join us. Today will be a Q&A special because I had a lot of stuff going on today, so didn't have time to put together the actual show, although I'm up on the news. But I figured we can do Q&A and talk about whatever topic you want with regards to Ukraine, answer people's questions, hit some of the old topics too if people want to talk about nuclear war. But anyway, let's wait 2 or 3 minutes for folks to arrive. I will get TikTok going right now. And then, as you guys know, it takes about 2 or 3 minutes for people to get the notice and arrive. So we will do that. Let me flip TikTok here. There it is. All right. Woo woo. There they go. Oh, man, what a day. I just got done doing a news interview with the local Fox 5 affiliate about crime in DC because it's out of control in this town. But we caught a guy who had broken into my building multiple times and broken into neighbors' buildings. And of course, being DC, a long rap sheet and 10 different thefts in buildings, getting into apartment buildings, stealing packages, breaking and entering, breaking through the back door of my building, burglarizing a home down the street. What did they do? They charged him with one misdemeanor worth 180 days. God bless you, Washington, D.C., you cesspool of a town. Anyway, thank you, Grodon. Grodon, the map. The map is starting again. Grodon wants to see the map. You get to see the map, Grodon. Thank you for that. No list of topics today because today it was kind of a crazed day. So we're going to do this as a Q&A day instead. We're still going to wait for folks to arrive. I am up on the news, but like I said, today was a crazy day. I was being my DC crime fighter hat on most of the day, ran off and had to do a local TV interview about half an hour ago. So if you're in DC area, it'll be on Fox 5 at 10 o'clock tonight, but in the 10 o'clock hour. But anyway, so I had no time to really put the show together, and I'm flying out tomorrow too. So thank you, Harold, for the hat there. Anyway, we'll wait a minute. Like I said, wait another minute for folks to arrive, and then we'll start. Callum, if had you visited the moderator section over on Discord, you'd know. But no, today was a very busy day because I'm preparing to leave tomorrow, but also had to deal with crime fighting in Washington, D.C. We caught a guy who's been terrorizing my neighborhood, breaking into places, burglarizing, also sneaking in and stealing stuff, everything. And they charged him with one misdemeanor worth 180 days max in prison. It's like, oh. So the media wanted to talk to me to see how I felt about that. So anyway, all right, let's get started. I actually need to take one of my pills. I'm like still so annoyed. I'm coughing because the nerves of doing this TV interview about crime in DC, I'm like, my nerves are like this right now. I need a drink while I'm doing the show, guys. I'm telling you. So welcome, everybody. John Aravosis here with the Aravosis Report. This is my nightly show, Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, where I talk about the latest news from Ukraine. Tonight, what we're going to do is I'm going to take your guys' questions right away. We'll make this a Q&A show about Ukraine. Again, for a number of reasons, today was a very busy day for me. I'm up on the news, but I was busy crime fighting today. Thank you, Pamela, for the meteor shower. I was busy crime fighting, trying to put bad guys in jail in D.C. and Fox 5, which is the good local affiliate, by the way. The local Fox is not Fox, which is nice. Years ago, I got asked by Fox 5 to interview about crime because I've done a lot of local crime stuff in D.C. It makes it sound like I've been a criminal. I've done a lot of local crime stuff in D.C. No. I have worked on crime issues in D.C. for years. And the Fox folks called and I said, I really don't do interviews with Fox. And she goes, no, we're not like them. We're the local Fox. We're okay. And they were amazing, but it was very funny to have them say that. So local Fox is good. We do interviews with local Fox. In any case, but I was dealing with that all day today. And an hour ago, we had to do my TV interview with Fox, the local Fox, about the crime situation in DC. And anyway, very long story. We can talk about it at the end. But in any case, so thank you for the gifts already on TikTok. So the way the show works, normally I do about half hour of the news updates and then questions. Today, because I've been running around all day, I did read up on the news. So I'm up on the news if you guys have questions, but I didn't have time to put an actual show together. Thank you, Jetta and Donkashane, both for the dogs. I didn't have time to put a show together. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what's going on. And Let's go. So we can jump right in. I will say we can. Yeah, I was going to say just Judy's asking about the Minecraft guy. We can start talking about the latest on that. The guy that did the classified documents. Just to say, if you guys can, of course, I very much appreciate your gifts. Again, super chat questions, gifts on TikTok. I do this for free. I do it full time. And other than today, I actually have a real show prepared for you. But I do this full time, and your guys' gifts help me be able to continue doing this because literally you help me pay the bills. So I'm able to do the show. So thank you. Please do keep the gifts coming. Thank you. Ben had a super chat. I didn't even see Ben had a super chat. Hang on. Ben, there you are. Thoughts on the Chinese foreign minister? And we got multiple gifts coming in. Big BJ Gator Girl, Happy Beach, Mr. Chicago, everybody. Thank you, guys. Actually, I will say this for TikTok. A lot of you guys are putting questions in the comments. Remember, on TikTok, it's much easier if you go to the Q&A link in my profile, assuming it's available to you. Try to click on the Q&A link in my profile and put questions, because that way they're in a row and I don't lose them. Here, they scroll off the screen, and if I'm talking, I don't see them. So try to do that if you can. Ben, thoughts on the Chinese foreign minister saying that they won't supply either side with weapons? Yes. So Chinese foreign minister says today, well, I'm repeating Ben, but Chinese foreign minister says today, we will not supply Ukraine or Russia. We're not going to supply either side with weapons. Now, that's good to hear them say. I will say, because China is a country that actually very much cares about saving face and embarrassment and all of that, it's probably very helpful to have them say that, right? Because if they are found to be giving Russia weapons, then it's going to be really embarrassing for China, and they don't like to be embarrassed publicly. So that's good. I will say, thank you, Ali, for the llama there. There was a story today that I think the Ukrainians are alleging this, but a story today that the Ukrainians are finding Russian weapons that have Chinese technology incorporated in them. And that story just came out today. Thank you, Tattooed Mom, for this Ferris wheel. That's very cool, the Ferris wheel. Thank you for that. Which makes me think that actually sorry, real quick, Mr. Chicago, we can tell people this again. The way it actually works is on TikTok, if you buy your coins on your laptop, your desktop computer, there could be as much as a 30% discount or a 30% increase in what you're able to get, just so you know. So if you have the opportunity, buy your coins on your computer, you'll get a lot more coins for the same price, which is great. So just be aware of that. That's what Mr. Chicago was trying to say. As far as the Chinese foreign minister, so they have found a lot of Chinese technology, the Ukrainians say, in the weapons, which is troublesome. So let's see. I mean, keep in mind, one of the things we learned with these classified document leaks was, not surprisingly, the U.S. was warning about China potentially supplying weapons to Russia because they had intercepted the Russian FSB officials, basically the Russian spies, talking to each other and saying just that, hey, China just approved it. They don't want anybody to know, but they are going to provide us with weapons. So the U.S. heard that, didn't want to say that's how they knew, but that's why Biden and everybody went public and said, we have a feeling China's going to give these weapons. They're making a decision. They'd better not decide to. So I think having the Chinese foreign minister say this is helpful, but it needs to be, it needs to be true, but at least it's helpful. Thank you, Dirk, for the thank you. I appreciate that. I did show Grode on the map, so that's good. Let me see. Sorry, you guys were starting to say stuff. Somebody was asking on where Ukraine is, I think. Do you think Ukraine's going to lose the war? I don't know. Honestly, what I think is most important with the question of whether Ukraine's going to win, is if we want Ukraine to win, they will win. If we in the West want them to win. But we're holding back weapons, and we've been holding, excuse me, I ate really fast before the show too, so now I've got like hiccups. We the West have been holding back weapons from the beginning. Right? Remember at the very beginning, are we going to give them Stinger missiles? We gave them Stinger missiles. We didn't give them tanks for a year. We didn't give them Patriot missiles. Actually, the Patriot missiles, I think, are just arriving or have just arrived recently. HIMARS, we waited months to give them HIMARS. Then, I'll get to yours in a second, Daniel, there. We waited months to give them HIMARS. Then we gave them the HIMARS and we gave them one. Then we gave them a second one. Then the next month we gave them two, right? And it slowly. We still haven't given Ukraine, I would say, the top thing really Ukraine needs. They need tanks. The stupid tank decision wasn't made until January, which means now the tanks are slowly trickling in. The American tanks, they may not get our tanks till October, November, December. The tanks they're getting from Europe, They're now having to get the lower grade tanks. They wanted Leopard 2s. They're getting a lot of Leopard 1s because the Leopard 2s aren't available. This tank situation alone, tank situation is a perfect example. Had we decided a year ago, the war's been going on for 14 months, guys. Had we decided a year ago to go after, to approve these tanks, we could have then spent the next year getting the tanks ready to send. And even if it takes America a year, that year would have gotten the tanks to them now in time for their offensive. Currently, they're not going to get, anyway. So will Ukraine win? Ukraine will win if we want them to win. The day I hear Joe Biden say, the U.S. wants Ukraine to win the war is the day Ukraine will win the war. But Biden doesn't want Ukraine to win. He wants a tie because he wants them to reach a deal because he's afraid of Putin. And he is. I love Biden, but he's afraid of Putin. And Putin psyched him out. All right, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. It was very generous of you. Sorry, and a quick little gift, Jeannie. That's a very nice one too, Jeannie. Thank you for that. Were both of those Jeannie? I'm just looking here really quick. Both of those might have been Jeannie, actually. Oh, no, the other one was Danny. Thank you, Danny. I knew there was a second one. Thank you for that. So Daniel, thank you, Daniel. It was very generous of you for missed donations. We have missed, we've missed you as you, Daniel, not as donations, but thank you as well. Been going to bed early and catching up the next day. Feel like we're in the calm before the storm. Thanks for the great work. It's appreciated. Oh, well, thank you. We certainly are in the calm before the storm in terms of what happens next with Ukraine, right? It's going to be very interesting to see. Stephen, I'll get to you in a sec, because we know the weapons that are coming. We know Ukraine is getting tanks. We know the tanks are coming, but they're coming slowly. We do know that there is a lot of other vehicles coming, right? The armored personnel carriers, some of these other, was it the Bradley fighting vehicles the U.S. is sending? There's a lot of other vehicles, the French light tanks that are coming, the MX blah, 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 whatever it is from France. Those are all really helpful too. And we haven't actually heard a lot of information about them, which makes me curious. It actually makes me wonder, I hope, that we're not hearing a lot about those other armed vehicles because they're actually arriving and we're trying to keep it quiet. I wonder. Nonetheless, it's we're going to see how the war goes based on that. Thank you, Loyalty, for the wreath there. The other question will be, based on the weapons Ukraine gets, when will Ukraine really start the counteroffensive, right? There's sort of two competing things here. The longer you let Russia dig in, the harder it's going to be to kick Russia out. Actually, I can show you the map for this part, right? We know Russia has invaded and occupied this in the last year. They actually invaded and took more, but Ukraine got half of it back. So they're still occupying this. They're still occupying this that they grabbed in 2014, Crimea. And in order to get it back, they need the tanks and stuff. They're not getting enough of the tanks. Well, Ukraine could wait to start their counterattack based on when they get more equipment. But if they wait for more tanks, they give the Russians more time to dig in. Because in all of that territory, the Russians are building trenches. They're putting up, traps for tanks, things to stop the tanks, minefields to stop the troops. So there's this very weird back and forth, or I should say not weird, but a conundrum the Ukrainians are in, where if they wait longer, they get more weapons. But if they wait longer, they give the Russians a better chance to dig in, which means it'll be harder to kick the Russians out. Stephen, thank you for that as well. Very generous. The leak included a U.S. intelligence that the war gutted the Russian Spetsnaz forces. Spetsnaz are like their special forces. How much has Russian capabilities been diminished because of loss of experienced troops and inadequate training? What is their plan to backfill? I don't know all of that. And maybe some of the military folks can jump in too. What I do know, thank you, Kenneth, for the Friday thing. We already knew publicly that Russia was in a problem because they used a lot of their best troops for the first several months in the war, right? So we already knew that was a problem, that a lot of their best troops had already been killed or wounded or whatever, not able to fight. We also knew in the last couple months, maybe the last 3 months, that Russia has been so anal about trying to win Bakhmut. And again, Bakhmut is this, it really is small. It's 60,000 people. Bakhmut is this, somebody goes, you know nothing. I know the population of Bakhmut. I'll bet you didn't. 60,000 people. So population, Bakhmut, 60,000 people right around here. Ukrainian town, still controlled by Ukrainian. Russia has been trying to get that town for like 7 months now. And they're having more success. There were reports today, I think, from British Ministry of Defense that the Russians have moved in a little further in Bakhmut. The Ukrainians have had to pull out a bit more. So it's very possible that they will be able to, they'll be able to get Bakhmut soon. But Bakhmut doesn't really matter. It just doesn't matter. What had happened in the last few months was the Russians they were sending a lot of their, thank you for the gift there, who is that? Pauline, thank you. They were sending a lot of the Wagner group guys, the mercenary group, were in charge in Bakhmut, but they also were sending in the last few months, I remember, some of their top troops as well. Like, they're really anal about getting this town. Well, a lot of those troops got killed and injured. So I don't remember. I had read this really briefly, but I don't remember, Stephen. You can feel free to write another comment. You don't have to pay for it. Whether the what the memo said about what specifically was gutting the Spetsnaz troops forces. Was it Bakhmut? Was it the opening months of the war? I'm just curious as to what exactly was causing it. Now, as far as the backfill, there isn't backfill in a way. I mean, new troops are not going to help you. The new guys are trained new. We know this from last September, right? They trained 300,000 men, but they didn't really give them training at all. Some of the guys got to shoot like one bullet, right? They gave them rusty guns. I mean, it was ridiculous. So these guys can't fill. It reminds me actually of when the generals were getting killed too. Remember in those first months of the war when the Russians lost like 13 generals or whatever? And it was interesting because I was listening to the military folks here talk about it, and they were saying how this is a much bigger deal than you realize. It's not just Russia losing senior people with a lot of experience. It's those people took 30 and 40 years to get that experience. It's not like there's a lot of other people who can take over. Like, that's 40 years experience you're having to replace. Anybody who's got that experience is already a general. So very interesting in that case too. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think, the one thing I will say is I did see, well, on both sides, Ukraine, I think, has like 100,000 men that they've got ready to go. Thank you, Timothy, for the coral. Russia still has some men I think they've kept on the side. The question is, did Russia really keep their best men on the side? I'm not sure I believe that. Thank you, Lori, for the cuddles. Timothy for the coral. I'm not really sure I believe the argument that Russia kept its best men till now. Really? Right? I mean, because the trolls say this a lot, right? Oh, you just wait till Russia really decides to fight. And I'm like, Russia went 14 months without really deciding to fight? That seems kind of stupid, right? I mean, you lost 220,000 men, either injured or killed, because you didn't decide you really wanted to fight yet? Come on. I just don't believe it. Oops. Let me look here. Okay, I got you guys. Excellent. The rest, I will still pull them off the screen, but otherwise I'll also look for TikTok questions on TikTok. Well, let me look on TikTok and see if anybody's put questions in here too. Hang on. Oh yeah, but that guy, they, I guess they went to court today. He was, charged with the usual espionage or whatever. It was, I'm forgetting the exact, it was sort of taking and whatever it was. I've got to pull it up again, what they were calling it exactly. The interesting question with him will be how many counts he's charged with, because there were potentially 300 or 500 documents this guy stole. If it's 300 or 500, potentially, again, the experts were saying on TV today, he could be charged with a different count for each document that he stole. So it could be, and each count could be a 10-year prison sentence. So this guy could be in a lot of trouble. Yeah, I was just going to say, Duke is saying placeholder charges. Exactly. You give him the initial charge based on maybe one document or two documents, and so that the judge can say, yeah, we've given you your initial day in court, and there's no way we're giving you bail, right? Thank you, Lori, for the happy Friday. There's no way we're giving you bail. And then you get to the next part of it. Sorry, looking for my chapstick here. Then you get to the next part of it where the government gets to create its case and put together a much larger case, right? So, yeah, I think you're right, Duke. Yeah, Etzel's saying the same thing. No, so I'm not too worried about that. But what will be interesting, like I said, this kid, so I'm going to turn my temperature up. Now I'm getting cold in here. This kid's in trouble. I mean, as we talked about yesterday, the frivolity, is that the word? The frivolousness of what this kid did. On its face, it doesn't look like he was a whistleblower. Not that that matters, right? But it didn't look like he was a whistleblower. He was a kid who was trying to show off to a bunch of younger kids. And you know what? You're going to jail for a long time. I mean, I've said this before, and I think hopefully all of you can appreciate this. But I think any of us who have worked with classified information, I hope, like, it was drilled into your head how serious this was. You know, I told you guys yesterday, I had to sign documents. I had to go to the CIA which was very fun. My only trip to the CIA, I think my only trip. I had to go there for a briefing when I got my security clearance. I had code word, which was top secret above security clearances, very high for doing arms control work when I was in the US Senate. And I had to go to the CIA. They showed me different documents, giving me examples of the kind of intelligence I could see. They showed me examples of satellite images and because I might be seeing satellite images of Soviet arms, ICBMs and things like this, and giving me an example of how well our satellites work. Those were classified. I couldn't tell anybody, and I still, to this day, won't tell you what I saw, but I could tell you they showed me satellite images. They made me sign a document that said I recognize this is all classified and that I will go to jail for a very long time if I share this information with anybody. Like, they even make you, even though you'll go to jail, they made me sign something saying I know I'll go to jail, just to make it really obvious, right? I mean, it's really bad. It's really bad. I mean, it's really clear what they make to you. I told you guys one thing they did with me, which cracked me up at the time, but my clearances, which again, were very similar to this guy's clearances. My clearances, the names of my security clearance, the name of it was classified. Even the name of my clearance was classified. So in other words, to try to tell you exactly what clearance I mean, I could say top secret SCI or code word. That's only the general area. To tell you what I'm allowed to see, that's classified. So it's not even the information is classified. The name of the clearance is classified. That's how highly classified this guy's stuff is. And as I said, this is how much they drill into your, anyway, maybe I wonder sometimes if it's just me, if it's just me. Because to me, like I said, I took the classified stuff very seriously. I don't know, sorry, my allergies are going nuts today. I don't know whether for a lot of people, they consider it kind of frivolous. Maybe the Snowdens and those guys, I don't know, right? These guys, I don't know. This guy said, I'm going to show off to a bunch of kids. To me, the idea of I'm going to summarize and then I'm literally going to take a classified document and put it on a game server for other people. Like, it just, I wouldn't do it, but also I'd be convinced I'd go to jail. So I do wonder too, if there's something wrong with this guy. Why didn't he think he was going to go to jail? He trusted his 30 people not to tell anybody. I mean, dude, really? It's very weird. It's very weird. Now, somebody had raised yesterday talking to us. I still do wonder, is it possible there's something weirder going on here? Is it possible the Russians are involved somehow? Is it possible, for example, the one of you guys was saying yesterday, I'm talking like, that was my Chicago coming out. One of you guys, one of you guys coming out yesterday was saying, is it possible that the Russians were one of the people in his group, cheering him on to find more documents? Who knows? I mean, now, mind you, there's another thing too. Here's what's going to get interesting too. He is the first criminal, right? He put the documents in the server with 30 people on Discord. I don't think he shared them to the other servers. Who shared the documents to the other servers? Because they're going to jail for a long time too. Somebody did share with the other servers. Now, I literally just read before I came on with you guys. This I thought was kind of funny because, you're kind of thinking like, how did they find this guy? Well, he was running this server. I think they knew the name of the server on Discord. In other words, the Discord account. They knew the Discord account that it was on, okay? They simply gave a subpoena to Discord and said, who owns that account? Who's paying the bills on that account? And they said, oh, that's Jack Tejera or whatever. So they were able to get this guy's information like that once they knew the name of the account on Discord, which is very smart, actually. But no, this guy, I'm telling you, I hope he goes to jail for a very long time. Actually, interestingly, people were asking me, Milosh, hello again. EU adds Wagner mercenary group to sanctions list. Oh, that's good. European Union added the Wagner mercenary group to the sanctions list. I don't think I saw that. Maybe I did. I don't remember. Although I will say that kind of stuff drives me crazy because shouldn't they have been on the sanctions list before? Now, I will say this, hilarious. The issue with the pronunciation of his last name is it's a Portuguese last name, at least the way I was taught that name, because I studied Portuguese for a while. So I think Teixeira or something like that when I see the name. So are you saying like in English, we say Texera? Texera? Okay, I'll call it that. Like I said, I saw it and I was just like Teixeira because I don't know how you'd pronounce it. I'm typically not somebody who says Spanish names like, Senor Rodriguez, say Rodriguez, but Teixeira. How did he have a high security clearance? I mean, that's also one of the things they're looking into was National Guard. Was he somehow part of the federal National Guard or like the National Guard? Was he just this Massachusetts thing? If he's this 21-year-old guy in Massachusetts, why did he have to have access to our, to the war plans in Ukraine? I mean, why does anybody in the National Guard in Massachusetts need to see the U.S. assessment of how Ukraine's doing? I mean, there's zero reason for that, right? It's the freaking National Guard. They don't need to see that. They don't need to see the details of our negotiation with South Korea on weapons. I mean, so much of these documents were just like crazy stuff. It's really weird. I was trying to think there was something. I mean, we got a lot of other stuff. There was something else you guys got me thinking of with this stuff too. I know I say kid, but I think as somebody else said, Bash Brannigan saying I'm calling him a kid. I think the issue is when you're older like me, you think of 21-year-olds as a kid. But I realize, we just did Miloš. Miloš, I think I thought I just talked about what Miloš had, didn't I? Pretty sure I did. Unless he had two. Yeah, the Wagner thing. Yeah. We talked about the Wagner thing. Yeah. I said, yeah, I saw it. I said, my concern about it was just like some of our sanctions, it took them until now to sanction the Wagner group. Like, hello? Like that annoys me a little bit that they're just doing it now. I'm with you on the kid thing. I don't mean to diminish it, but when I say kid, I mean it this way. You look at him. He's this 21-year-old little tiny thing, right? What was this guy doing with access to our top secrets? He has zero experience to merit having that kind of access. Zero experience. Now, and again, this gets into, I do this every day as I'm talking to you guys. I move my slippers around and then I can't find them because I'm insane. I will say this. I saw some of the military guys on TV talking and saying, and there's a valid point here that, in the military, we give people a lot of responsibility early on. Thank you, Annie, for the boat. I love that boat. That we give people a lot of experience, a lot of responsibility early on. So in that case, right? I mean, thank you for the fruit hat too. In that case, maybe somebody younger in the military could get access. But again, he's Massachusetts National Guard. Why does this guy need to be getting access to any discussions of what's going on in Ukraine? They don't need to know. They really don't need to know to defend Massachusetts. I mean, well, that's the question, right? Etzel's saying I had a heavy clearance at 21. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know, Edsel. I mean, because part of it makes me wonder then whether they've got to do somehow more checks on these people or what. But I guess to some degree, your clearance is a gentleman's agreement in a way, right? I mean, I could have slipped stuff to the Russians if I wanted to, I guess, right? Read documents and tell them about it, I guess, whatever. But so that's possible. But, sorry, scrolling down again. Daniel, it looks like you may have had a question, but you didn't include it. I will look for that in a second. Paul Gray, where were the doctored files shared to? The doctored files, I think, were on that Minecraft. I don't remember. Well, here's the problem with the doctored files. I'm not sure. The doctored files, the ones that I know of, were these files that showed the Russian casualties or versus the Ukrainian. And it talked about a number of dead and wounded, I believe. Thank you, Elle, for the hat. It talked about the number of planes shot down, for example. And the Russians had lost a lot more than the Ukrainians. And somebody changed the numbers to make it look like the Ukrainians lost more. What I know that was Discord, Elle. My question is, some of the OSINT guys, it probably was Arik Toller, because he's the guy who found everything from Bellingcat. He, I think, is the one who found the original one posted on Discord that was not edited, and then the edited one that was also somewhere. And I don't know where those two were separately, whether they popped up into the same thing, right? Were they in the same server? Were they, or I don't know. Or did somebody give the stack of documents to the paper, but when they gave it to the newspaper, they included some fake ones? I don't know, right? Oh, 4chan. Was 4chan involved? I forgot. Oh, God, 4chan, imagine. So, I mean, because it's what's an interesting question with regards to what you're asking, Paul, is where where um, where this changing of the record, this falsification popped in, and who did it? Because certainly that looks like the Russians, right? Trying to downplay how the Russians did and sort of upplay Ukrainian deaths and downplay the rest. I don't think I've missed a super chat. Unless it's Daniel's, I've got to go back to the live again and see if it's Daniel's. Let me find if somebody repeated Daniel's question. There it is, Daniel's. Okay, thank you. No, I was in the super chat column. Daniel, why is Turkey blocking Sweden? Yep. Turkey and Hungary blocking Sweden from joining NATO. Could the upcoming election in Turkey benefit Ukraine? Yes. So, talking about that topic really quick. So last year, we know Finland and Sweden decide they want to join NATO. I think, thank you for the confetti, Tom Clark. I'm trying to remember, but I seem to remember the discussion starting very soon after the invasion. I don't remember, was it last summer? I don't remember when both countries finally officially said, we are going to apply to join NATO. The Turks had some concerns. The Turks claimed they had some concerns. Who knows? Hungary had no concerns at all, right? Hungary was fine. Turkey said, well, we're worried about Sweden because they've given refuge to a lot of not Iraqis. Well, maybe it was Iraqis, but Kurds, basically, because the Kurdish people are in territories that overlap Turkey, Iraq, probably some other countries there that I'm missing, but basically like northwestern Iraq, southeastern Turkey, right? And the Turks consider some of these people to be terrorists, right? The Turkish government. So they said, we've got concerns about that. Well, the Swedes apparently did every single thing the Turks asked them to do, every single thing. And what happens come, turn of the year, Christmas, New Year's, the Turks start coming up with more things they want the Swedes to do, which now makes it sound like the Turks are playing games, because they asked specific things. Sweden did it. It was done. Well, then Hungary starts voicing concerns. Hungary also clearly playing games. Suddenly, Hungary is very upset that Sweden has been very critical of Hungary's, basically the fact that Hungary is no longer a democracy because Hungary is run by a wannabe dictator named Erdogan. And the Swedes, among others, most of the EU has been critical of Hungary because Hungary's not getting a lot of money because they've so gotten rid of their democracy. So Hungary suddenly out of nowhere decides, oh, we're very upset about what the Swedes have been saying about us out of nowhere. Swedes have been saying this for a long time, right? So Hungary's playing games. Turkey's playing games because all of a sudden they changed their mind, right? He used the excuse as well of thank you for the dog there. Who was that? Bonnie. They're using the excuse as well that there was a far right, I think he may be a Danish, Swedish joint national, basically a far right racist activist who, doesn't like Muslims. So he announced he was going to do a protest in front of the Turkish embassy. The Turks are Muslims. And he was going to burn a Quran, which is the holy book. Basically, the Bible of Muslims is the Quran. Okay. I mean, it's equivalent importance, right? So he decides he's going to go in front of the Turkish embassy, knowing that, we wouldn't love to have a Bible be burned, but how Muslims can get, how extremist Muslims can get. I mean, the extremists, right? I mean, killing people, threatening to kill people, fatwas, the Salman Rushdie, you name it, right? So, he knew things could get bad. Well, Turkey gets pissed off. Erdogan says, because you let this man burn a Quran, we are not going to let you join NATO. Well, the Swedish government tried to stop him actually from doing this protest, and the courts overruled them because in Sweden, like in America, you've got freedom of speech. In America, you can't stop somebody from burning a Bible in front of a church. It would be obnoxious and disgusting. You can't do it. They could have a protest in front of a synagogue with a Nazi flag. All that stuff is allowed. And we've had things like that happen in this country. Sweden apparently has similar rules. The court said, you got to let him do it. So Turkey decided, first of all, I think Turkey's lying. I think Erdogan's lying about this whole thing. He's using it as an excuse. But Erdogan said, well, if you don't, stop him and send all these terrorists to us, well, the court rules that the people Turkey wants extradited can't be extradited. The court said, we can't extradite. Legally, there's no way we can extradite these people. Well, Erdogan, being another wannabe dictator, who is also watering down Turkey's democracy, he figures, well, why can't you extradite these guys? I can do it, right? Because in Turkey, what Erdogan wants, Erdogan does. So he figures Sweden can do the same thing. Well, so that's what's going on. But what we think is actually going on, there's a danger of Erdogan losing the election in May. His election, he's up for office again in May. The opposition has united around one candidate. Erdogan is in real danger of losing, and he's using the Swedish thing to, rally around the flag, or in this case, rally around the Koran, right? To basically take a religious country, you take a country that really takes its religion seriously, and you say, the blonde infidels are attacking our religion. I'm not going to let it stand. Ha ha. So that's what he's doing. And Hungary, they're pro-Putin. He's a pro-Putin dictator. Wannabe dictator. So why is he doing it? At this point, it's because he can. Like I said, he came up with it out of nowhere. I wouldn't be surprised if Putin's paying him off. Who knows? I mean, everything's possible. So dropping my water as I talk to you. Ooh la la. So what else we got? More questions, people. Actually, let me try to pull up the TikTok Q&A as well, since I asked you guys to pull. Got 6:40 already. We really have been talking here. Do check out the Discord. Like I said, I have a Discord too that doesn't have classified information on it. It's discord.aravosis.com. You can find it in the links on my profile, the Linktree link. Click it. The Discord will come up. And for you guys, you can find it with aravosis.com below. It's free, but there's a paying option if you want to be super helpful. We have cool auctions and things there. I don't think I have my auction stuff right here. I've got the Azov style steel bracelets, lots of cool stuff for auction. Half the money goes to Ukraine, half the money supports my work because I do this for free. Well, do it for free, but I'm doing it full time, so I do need an income. And also just pitch my Patreon really quick. I do have a Patreon as well, patreon.com/aravosis. Those of you on Twitch and TikTok and everything else, YouTube, will see it at the bottom of the screen. For the rest of you, again, it's patreon.com/my last name, Aravosis, or you can just go to my profile, click the link tree. It's there. But Patreon's a nice way of, I always love when the trolls come because they got this talking point. You talk a lot. Shall we sit here for an hour and stare at each other? I mean, I always love that. Like, you talk a lot. Well, what am I supposed to do? It's a live chat. It's not a live look. I mean, I love it though, because it's one of it's one of their talking points. Actually, my friend Marion's really interesting. Marion, who's come on here before. Actually, we've never had her as a guest. We need her as a guest because Marion is very up on Russia, Soviet Union, was an expert in Soviet law. And yeah, exactly. You talk a lot on your talk show. Exactly. Expert in Soviet law, now an expert in Russian law. She actually negotiated contracts in Russian. I mean, she knows Russian law and society like nobody's business. And what was I saying with Marion in this? I was thinking with the, oh my God, I'm totally spacing out here. Oop, hang on real quick. I've got it. I'm getting a question from the reporter. I told you guys I'm dealing with a reporter on TV tonight that I went on. Was asking if the guy anyway, the guy that they just, long story going on, but we've had a lot of crimes in my building and my neighborhood in DC overall, and frankly, all across America of late. And they finally caught the guy, but the DC police and the prosecutors, this guy snuck into our building 3 times, big condominium. Stole all the package, but stole a ton of packages 3 times. 4th time, comes to the back door, breaks the back, pounds 2 a.m. with a metal thing, breaks the back door open. Goes up the block, steals stuff from another home, steals from a bunch of different buildings in the area, goes to another building, a block away, and breaks in the other night, breaking and entering. Like breaks into their small apartment building, their small condominium, small children, everything there. They finally get him arrested because we basically got the guy arrested, and they charged him with a misdemeanor today with 1 crime. Well, 2 crimes, but basically they charged him with unlawful entry and theft for the breaking and entering when he burglarized this apartment, this condominium nearby me. The guy broke into the building And they're calling it, rather than burglary, which it is, they're calling it unlawful entry, which unlawful entry is trespass. It's unlawful entry when he walks into my building, right? Like it's not and theft. And the theft they called it was the lower level theft. So it's a misdemeanor. And this guy who's terrorized our neighborhood for months, at most he can get 180 days. I mean, anyway, so that's what I've been doing today, but that's why she was messaging me about that. So I interviewed with Fox 5 Local today to really go after the police and the prosecutors, because it's like, I mean, literally breaking and entering, broke in our back door of our building at 2 a.m. This is scary stuff. And misdemeanor, it's a misdemeanor. It's like he picked up a wallet on the street and didn't return it. I'm like, anyway, whatever. I don't like living in this town. I really do. I never liked living in DC, actually. Long story there, but it is for stuff like this. It's never been, it's like Pinocchio. It's a city that wants to be a real boy, but it's never been a real boy. And it's just never run well. It started to be run really well, actually, and just started falling apart again. It's really sad. Why not move? I've lived here forever. Actually, we don't have to get into all of this, but I learned a couple of years ago, I moved to New York for 2 years. I got my job at the UN, my dream job, worst job of my entire life, but we're not going to talk about the regulars here. No, don't get John talking about the United Nations. But I worked at the United Nations for a year, quit. It was horrific. Worst job of my life. But what I found was, if you're in your 50s and you move to another city, it's very hard to make friends. And I really didn't make friends for the 2 years I was in New York. I mean, I made a lot of friends at work. Guess what? They all had children. They couldn't go out at night. I mean, literally nobody was available. And New York is also very hard. Like, people make plans 2 months in advance. It's ridiculous. But nobody's available to go out. When they do want to go out, literally, on a Friday night after work, friends were like, yeah, we're going to meet up later. Why don't you join us at 1 o'clock at midnight or 1 o'clock for a drink? And I'm like, I'm going to be in bed at 1 o'clock. You think I'm going to come home from work on a Friday and then go out 5 hours later? I'm not like I'm 23. New York. Anyway, nobody was free to ever go out. And that's what I found, like changing towns. Here's my life lesson for you. If you're in your 20s, especially, and you can move, consider moving. If you can move and want to move. Once you get older, it gets first of all, if you settle down, it will get hard. You've got a spouse to worry about. You've got kids, right? But meeting other friends and stuff, if you're single, very difficult when you become a certain age, because everyone else has family and kids and they can't go out. And you also get the weird thing, which I find interesting, but you get sort of this weird thing with people too, which I don't appreciate. I mean, I've never understood, but where like, I've got enough friends. I don't understand that. Like, I've never understood that mentality. I have enough friends. So like, they get to a certain age and they don't make new friends. And I'm like, if I meet somebody really interesting, I want to hang out sometime. I love meeting interesting people, right? But a lot of people hit this certain age and like, I'm too old to make new friends. And you're kind of like, dude, you're not like, first of all, even if you're 90 and you make new friends, good for you. Well, exactly. You can never have enough friends and new friends. Who knows who you're going to meet? Maybe you're going to meet a friend that's even better than your old friends. I mean, anyway. So yeah, moving is very hard. I mean, I've been thinking about that for someday retirement, but moving is very difficult. Because you're moving, I don't like DC, but I'm comfortable here. I know a lot of people here. You know what I mean? Like, it's comfortable, but I don't love it. I must say, come to Ireland. Yeah. Well, I've been trying to get my Greek passport forever. The Greeks are being a total PITA. I am totally eligible for the Greek passport. My mom was born there. Absolutely eligible. I mean, my uncle was defense minister of Greece and foreign minister, vice prime minister, and United Nations ambassador. My family really does come from Greece. And, all sorts of bureaucratic rigmarole, even though I'm totally eligible for the passport. It's been impossible to get. So, and I'm not Irish, so I can't get that. Ugh. Oh, good for you. Yeah, I can't. I mean, I'm still going to try with the Greek, but it's been impossible. It's been impossible. Why talk so fast? Why talk so slow? People who talk fast because they talk fast. It's just the way, it's the same reason you talk slow. People talk the way they talk, All right, let's talk more about the news again. News. All right, let's check the TikTok questions. Correct. That's a good idea, Harrison. Hold on here. TikTok questions. One of my bread people I follow. Well, that's a good point too. Yeah. I mean, who is this? Anthony Carlos says Sweden burns 1 Quran. Well, Putin destroys thousands as he bombs mosques in Ukraine. You don't see the Muslims freaking out about that. Why? Well, yeah. No, because first of all, it's not even the Muslims. It's Erdogan, right? It's not like you've got worldwide protests over Sweden. It's Erdogan. So that's what's going on, you know? No, he's playing games. He's playing games. He wants something and he's playing games. Oh, I'm sorry. Wilson, with Finland already in NATO, does Sweden not being in make a difference? You know, that is probably a question over my head. I mean, I think we don't like the precedent of somebody who's really good not getting in, right? Better to have a country. Sweden it's a large country. I do not know enough about the Swedish military. I know the Finnish military, very good. I mean, God, they did a real number on the Soviets for a number of years, right? Several hundred Soviets they killed. Finnish military, super good at winter warfare. The Finns are very good at their apparently artillery. Their artillery, they've got, I think, the most number of artillery in Europe, like a huge number. They make icebreakers. So the Finns have got a lot of technology and boats and everything for basically patrolling the Arctic. Hugely important issue that the Russians are paying a little too much attention to. Dave is saying Sweden makes great fighter planes. What are the rest of you saying? So about Sweden, though, what's the deal with Sweden as far as any of you military folks who are up on this? Is Sweden something special as well to get in? I mean, my gut tells me yes. Because one of the interesting issues, though, is because you've now got Finland, you've kind of surrounded Sweden, which almost makes Sweden a lot safer, right? There is that issue. You'd have to look at the map and see if I can. The problem is on the map, it may not be terribly obvious on the map. Let me pull this up and see. Sweden. See if it's obvious enough. Yeah, I mean, you can be basically, I mean, if you'd have to look at the map and see, but basically Sweden is over here. This is Finland over here. This is Russia. So you've got Russia, Finland, and Sweden. So Finland basically got in the way and blocked Russia from being able to go after Sweden. So it is a huge benefit for Sweden. And you could argue that Sweden is certainly adjusting my light here. Sweden is in a better stead. Oops, a little more. There we go. Trying to make my light a little less red. Sweden is in a better stead because of Finland being able to block the Russians, right? But I don't know. I think you'd have to see that. Let me just see what Sweden will allow good defense, good deep defense, and logic support for Northeast NATO. Well, you've got the issue of being able to fall back further because you not only have Finland, but you can fall back to Sweden as well if the Russians were to be invading. So there's a point. I love IKEA. That's a very good point as well. I do love IKEA. We definitely would never want to lose our IKEAs. That's for sure. Just looking here. Pretty sure Sweden has mandatory military between high and university. Gotland. Well, I know the Russians like playing a lot of games with Gotland. Gotland is I've been to Gotland. Gotland is sort of the island southeast of Sweden, kind of north of Germany, I want to say. But is it about Gotland? Okay, I didn't realize that. Anyway, there you go. Привет. Привет. Who's coming here, Paul? All right, let me pull up another TikTok question. Oof, and then tonight I've got to clean and pack and all sorts of fun things to fly to Chicago tomorrow. I don't know. Did somebody drop important documents in Ireland? Biden official? Don't know. I don't know anything about that. The Wagner group is still fighting. Annie asks, is the Wagner group still fighting? You don't hear about them. Well, I mean, they've been decimated. The Putin and the Minister of Defense intentionally sent all the Wagner guys to die in Bakhmut. They just kept sending them. From the Wagner guys that were all over Ukraine, they sent them all to die in Bakhmut on purpose. So that's not been great. They stopped letting Wagner go to, this is the mercenary group, go to Russian prisons and recruit prisoners. So that didn't help a lot. What else? I know now, the one thing I did read today was they are playing nicer together. So the Wagner people and the main Russian military guys are working together much better in fighting in Bakhmut, which is also probably why they're doing better in Bakhmut. So there is that. But, is it much more? Otherwise, He's still causing a lot of trouble. Prigozhin, who's the billionaire that runs the Wagner group, he's certainly making ongoing sounds about wanting to run against Putin for president. Putin cannot like that. For example, today, and again, he's doing too many contrary things. Today, he came out and said, he may not be wrong about this, but he came out and said they should just the Russians should just dig in and let the Ukrainians keep attacking. But basically, at this point, the Russians should dig in and they'll save their men and the Ukrainians will never be able to push them out. Well, that's not what the Russians are doing. Now, mind you, he's the idiot. He's the idiot who's been trying to take over Bakhmut in the east for 7 months. So he's one to talk about how we should give in and stop losing men. But it's interesting because he's still playing games, disagreeing publicly on military strategy with Putin. That's not very nice of him. I mean, he's still probably, like we said, too big to kill in terms of too big to fail. Clearly, Putin would have gotten rid of him if he could have at this point. But he may have too many supporters in the far right, nationalist groups. And I mean, he's a man with his own military. Putin may be worried about trying to get rid of a guy that's got his own military, Let me see here. More questions. Well, we've given him a lot of stuff. I mean, Elizabeth was saying, no question, more for discussion. The U.S. reportedly has given Ukraine loads of armored boats. That would be very helpful in, say, crossing a large river. I mean, I don't know about the armored boats, but I mean, we've given them a lot of stuff, I know, to help them advance in the counteroffensive. For example, I'm not really up on this, but I've seen pictures or whatever. Like, actually, I saw a really cool video on this. These ramps that are like extend, and I don't remember if it goes and I'm trying to remember if it goes over a minefield or something, but it either goes, certainly can go over trenches, but I don't, some of the minefield was here as well. But basically these very cool, like space age ramps that they can use to go over places that normally they couldn't go, like I guess over ditches or whatever, but I thought it was mines as well. And it allows the Ukrainians to keep going forward. So, I mean, I all I know is we have been giving them a lot of equipment specifically geared towards the counteroffensive. Yeah, towards getting beyond the Russian defenses. It was a video I saw a couple months ago. It was totally cool, showing like just this whole thing unfolding and how they would, I don't even know, Bailey bridges. Maybe that's it. It was some very cool bridge thing. But like I said, I want to say it had something to do with landmines as well. Anti-landmine tanks. Maybe it was the combination of what they were doing. They sent the tank first and then the bridge went over or something. It was very cool. Very cool. Good question. Documentary Chick says, do people pay taxes on income from TikTok? Who knows? I think a lot of people are going to be in trouble if they don't. I do. I mean, the interesting thing with taxes gets very confusing with all of these new jobs we have now, right? Because gifts, you do not pay. Okay, I am not going to give you tax advice. Let's make that one clear. This is not tax advice. This is my impression from the reading I did because I work for myself. So I've got to get, educated on this stuff. I looked into it and it seems that actual gifts from people are not taxable. If you reach a certain level of gift, then you still got to declare it because there's lifetime limits, this kind of stuff. But they're not taxable. But what is a gift? For example, you buy me gifts on TikTok, but are those really gifts or are they money you're giving me for my work, right? It's a weird, you guys are buying the questions. Isn't that really, I mean, I even pitch it that way. I mean, you're helping me do this work. If you weren't giving the gifts, I couldn't afford to do the work. So you're not really giving me a gift. It's contingent on my work, right? What is a gift, however, is, I think at least, when people go on GoFundMe's and say, for example, even with you guys, if I came on and said, my dog, I actually did a fundraiser for my dog several years ago. I didn't have a lot of money and she was super sick and I needed some cash and people chipped in. I mean, she was 5 days at the animal hospital. It was horrible. People chipped in. That was a gift. That was a gift. I did not approach people. I did not keep the money for myself as income. I did not approach people. It was not for work. So like my interpretation, if I approached you guys and said, by the way, the dog is really sick, I've set up a special fund. If you can help out, I'd appreciate it. Those are gifts. But if I say I'm taking 10% of it as income to help my work, now it calls into question the whole amount, actually. So my concern for people on TikTok is these are literally called gifts on TikTok. I mean, these are called gifts. And I could see a lot of kids thinking they're gifts. They're not income. I do this, especially if you're like, this is my job, so to speak. But if you're doing it for fun, right? You do a show on TikTok for fun. People give you gifts. Is it income? You know what I'd say too? I don't actually know if it's some kid doing it for fun. Some 17-year-old is doing their TikTok show for fun, right? But then what if they're getting $1 million in gifts, right? TikTok also gives you money based on the amount of traffic you get. All of that together, people could be making a lot. So I don't want to spend too much time on accounting, but it's kind of fascinating and very confusing. Well, that's the other thing too, right? Copies is saying it would be too easy. No, but it's very complicated. Did you guys get my little gift about 10 minutes ago? Depending where you sent it, where did you send it? I don't know. I don't know where you sent it. I mean, maybe, but where did you send it? Map. Okay, SB, sorry, we're doing the map again. SB with the map. Thank you, SB. Here's your map. Since we're not, thank you for the Friday. Speaking of gifts, thank you, D, for that. Thanks, guys. Woo woo. That was sweet of you. Thank you, SB, and they're very generous of you as well. In any case, I don't know where you sent it, CFI. So let me know, and I will let you know if it came in. Oh my. But it's an interesting question as to what is a gift and what isn't, and I think for somebody like me, this is my job. So I err on the side of saying these are not gifts. Now, if you give me money to give Vlad, that's not at the most, that would be money in, money out. That would be income deduction at the most. And even that, I'm not sure it should even be that. But for me with you, I wish I could consider these just gifts, to be honest, because I'd save a lot of money. Oh, I've read up on all this stuff. It's very confusing. It's very confusing. Trust me. I typically err on, like I said, I just declare all this stuff gifts. The stuff on Discord, gifts. My auctions, gifts. My t-shirt sales, no, not gifts. I'm sorry, the opposite. I consider all of these to be income. My auctions are income. My t-shirt sales are income. Everything's income as far as I'm concerned. There's no other way to do it. Thank you for the swan there, Dutch Gothic. I don't recognize your name. Nice to see you. You may be. I don't know if you're new here or not, but I don't recognize your name. Thank you for that. Does it matter if income's from other countries? I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Let's hope not. Oh, and thank you, Tucker the Turkey there, Michael Bradshaw. Thank you for that. If it is, then the TikTok folks were really in trouble if that's true. We're really in trouble if it's from, because 30% of you are from foreign countries. So thank you, Flower Lady, for that. Peg, I sent you some PayPal at Christmas. See, that's what I did was I appreciate that. I counted that stuff as income anyway. I didn't know what else to do with it. Oh, I do it. I definitely do a tax return. Yeah. I mean, most of my income last year is this. With you guys, I declared it all. I don't feel safe not doing it. I just don't feel safe. I wrote so quickly, I might've typed it wrong, Christopher. Did I? Maybe I did. Thank you, Competent Law, for the superpower. But yeah, I just don't feel safe not declaring. You know what it is? I think also like working, hell, remember, I'm the guy that's worried about classified information too. I mean, I think for me, at least, I would love, let me put it this way. I always say, I will take every deduction that I think I'm eligible for, but I will not do stuff that I think isn't valid. And I don't think, oh, thank you. I see Michael just pledged on Patreon. Thank you, Michael. That was sweet of you. But I will not go and not count money or whatever going, they're not going to find out. They may not find out, but if they do find out, I'm going to jail. Like, I saw yours, Flower Lady. It was fabulous. Didn't I mention it? I thought I mentioned it because it was the flower thing coming up again out of the ground that I love. I thought I said it. Maybe I didn't say it. I thought I did. I was watching it come up. Thank you for that. Yeah. Thank you, Hearts. I think I probably said it really fast. Sorry about that. What else? Anyway, enough of the accounting stuff. Enough of the accounting. I'm never dealing with another accountant again. No, I finally switched to do my own taxes. Thank you, user. I switched to do my own taxes several years ago because every accountant I had, first of all, they'd screw it up. They always entered the wrong data. And I'm like, no. And some of it was like, counting extra income I didn't have. I'm like, no, like you just like that would have cost me several $1,000s if I didn't go through line by line. Never, ever looking at ways for me to save money. Never looking at ways for me to save money, ever. Thank you, Iggy. I finally found ways for me to save money. They couldn't do it. And after that, I was like, this is ridiculous. So I literally took my tax form, and TurboTax doesn't make this easy either. there ought to be a way. By the way, this is like I said, where I ought to make $1 million consulting for companies, really. But thank you, Iggy, for the boxing robe, and who's that? Marcy for the hat and mustache. But here's my free advice to anybody working for the tax firms, the TurboTax and all the programs out there. There should be a way that I can simply put the PDF of my tax return into TurboTax. It reads it and it enters it into the system, so that basically, user 8. Oh, hey, user 822. Thank you for the cap. Kyle for the super dog. Thank you, guys. In other words, I want to buy TurboTax new. I've got last year's tax return. Let me enter the PDF of my tax return into TurboTax and let TurboTax put all the information in. So last year's information is in there and it now knows what to ask me about this year. I had the hardest time the first year going line by line and trying to figure out what TurboTax meant based on my return. They don't make it easy. I mean, I've got the tax return. TurboTax should just have a way where you say, I have last year's return on paper. I want to enter it. And TurboTax says, okay, let me walk you through that. They don't. They make it very difficult for a lot of it. Trust me, I went through this. So anyway, I had to learn TurboTax on my own with I literally entered manually my old tax return for the year before. I bought the year before's program, learned it, and now every year I've been doing my taxes. But it's the only way, because at least you are paying attention and you're learning about deductions, and you're learning about how much money you're putting in retirement and how much money you put in retirement, how that affects. And if you're doing conversions, is it affecting your income? And are you getting too much income and it's complicated, but honestly, when I get to be 80, I don't think I'll want to do that anymore. I know enough about taxes, too much taxes here. All right. Back to questions on this. We got on a tangent here. Sorry, guys. Beep, 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 beep. The reason we got into taxes is because taxes in America are due on Monday. And I guess they're due in Canada too. So a lot of us are kind of freaked out about taxes right now. Why? Oh, this is a good question. Oh, I remember you. I recognize these names. Aproko Tatafo. I hope I didn't just swear in some African language. Why did the U.S. have such a pessimistic view of the Ukrainian spring offensive, even with all the weapons and training they invested, or was that fake news? I don't know. I mean, thank you, Andrea, for the lights there. What they're talking about is one of the leaked documents, if it's true, who knows, right? But I think a lot of these seem to be true. First of all, you don't get charged with a crime for leaking fake documents. You only get charged with a crime for leaking real documents. So we're admitting the fact that we charged them with a crime, that some of the documents were real. Okay. I mean, right there. Hang on. I think it is certainly fair. And this is why when I saw so one of the documents said that the U.S. intelligence community, or at least some members of the intelligence community, maybe defense intelligence, had determined that it wasn't clear how Ukraine was going to do in the spring offensive. Maybe Ukraine wasn't going to win the spring offensive, or they weren't going to necessarily get that much land, right? It's possible. I said at the time that really didn't strike me as any big deal, because I'm not sure how Ukraine's going to do. I hope Ukraine's going to do really well. Are they going to do really well? I could see them doing really well or not doing really well. I don't know, right? I mean, I wouldn't say, I am saying it to you right now, but I mean, thank you for the Henry the Hedgehog there, Panda, right? I mean, it depends on how many tanks are they already getting. Have they gotten the Bradley fighting vehicles and the armored personnel carriers? How much artillery do they really have? Excuse me. Competent. Oh my God, I'm burping at you guys. Competent. Thank you for the happy Friday. The new they're getting more NASAMS anti-aircraft stuff. They're getting the Patriot missiles. Are those sufficient to take the place of the dwindling supplies of anti-aircraft missiles that they've already got? We know that the Ukrainians are going to be running short on those. Are these enough to make up for that? I don't know. Right? How many tanks? Like I said, how many tanks do they actually have already? How many will they have by the time the offensive starts? I don't know. So I mean, it's hard to know if they're going to do well. Typically, I will say one thing that stuck with me, which was very interesting, was I just thought it was interesting. Somebody said this, one of the experts, and he said, what I said, this was Michael Kaufman, actually, who's a very, I think he's out here in Virginia, but a very big defense expert that a lot of people look to, a lot of the newspapers, everybody else. And he said, what I do, he actually said the same thing. He went through the analysis, I remember a couple of weeks ago, and said just that, like, there's a lot of pros and cons. You could see it going both ways. He did say, though, consistently, Ukraine performs better than expected. And consistently, Russia performs about as you would expect. Meaning, we all know Russia's military is kind of screwed up, and they basically acted pretty screwed up. In other words, we keep expecting the Russian military to screw up, and they screw up. The Ukrainian military, we keep going, well, that was really good, but oh my God. And then they do well again, and they do well again. And then they had the big offensive in the fall, and they went through all of Kharkiv, right? And got all of that land back. And we keep seeing the Ukrainians, yeah, thank you, Nancy, for that. We keep seeing the Ukrainians do way better than we expect. So he said, that gives him hope coming in. Oh, there's Marion. Hello, Marion. Your ears were burning. I was talking about you as our Russia expert. I forgot why. I don't remember why. Something came up about Russia, and I said, Marion's the one to ask. I have no idea now. And because I'm talking to Marion, I'm forgetting what we were saying. Okay. I know I had reached my point there anyway. What was I saying about Marion? I was saying I said you were the big expert, but I'm forgetting why I was discussing that you were such a big expert. That I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, but yeah, so I know what we were saying about sort of how the spring offensive and why the U.S. was so negative. I mean, I will say this, part of the reason you might have a negative assessment about the Ukrainian counteroffensive is because Biden's still holding back. We're not giving them the ATACMS missiles, the longer range missiles. I mean, come on, Ukraine could have done a lot better. I mean, hi, Marion. Happy Easter. Thank you. Happy week after Easter for you and the rest. Yes, it is our Easter this weekend. Flying back tomorrow. I've got to start making Greek food tomorrow night at Mom's so we can have it ready, pasticcio, so we can have it ready on Sunday. I make it traditionally every year, but usually not the night before. After flying in, too, I'm going to be exhausted, but what do you do? Well, this is interesting. So Scott Glass is saying, tanks aside, I wonder if the Bradley fighting vehicles and the Marder fighting vehicles will actually be more useful in terms of speed across the battlefield. General Hertling, who's big American general, retired, very smart guy. He's been saying from the beginning that when people keep talking tanks, he keeps saying, stop, because you're not paying enough attention to the Bradley fighting vehicles that we're sending. He goes, those are going to make a huge difference, and nobody's talking about it. He goes, you're all worrying about tanks, because tanks matter, blah, 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 part of a larger blah, blah, blah. But he goes, those fighting vehicles are a big deal. But I thought it's funny you mentioned that, because that was his point. It keeps getting lighter in my window. Is there lightning, or is just weird? Am I just seeing weird reflections? It suddenly got a lot brighter. I'm like, I've got to hide it from the dog if it's lightning. Let me see here. Another question here. Actually, it's 7:11 already. Wow, I didn't realize. We'll go a little bit longer, then I'm going to call it quits, since, like I said, I'm trying to get ready for my flight tomorrow, and I've got Damien's going to be staying here, so I've got to clean up a little. I feel bad having Damien loves to clean and stuff. I don't, so I always feel like I've got to clean a little before Damien comes, because I hate to have him inherit a messy apartment. If war breaks out in Taiwan, I will be covering that as well. Yeah, because it's too important. I mean, I've always sort of said that that generally speaking, I'm covering Ukraine, but any huge story that comes up, I will weigh in. Like when Trump got indicted, we talked about that. If it's a huge story, I think I've got to talk about it. And also, if war breaks out with China, it's related, Okay, I just saw that again. Is it actually? I wonder if something's going on, or whether it's just. I think it may just be the reflection here, but I'm with you, because I keep seeing in my iPad the sky lighten up, but I don't know whether the sky is lightening up. Well, could be lightning. I don't know. Little creepy, but it definitely keeps lightening up. I keep seeing it lighten up on my iPad too. It's lightning. Yeah, weird. No. Interesting though. Robert Lee is saying, do you see any information on the mega explosions in Bakhmut? No, but I'm wondering. I face sort of west-northwest. I wonder, because, a couple atomic flash. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that. there were talks a couple days ago about the Russians putting the thermobaric weapons, the really horrible weapons that burn the air, and you die because all the air comes out of your body. I mean, it's horrific. They light the air on fire. They're pretty bird there. They were putting them on planes. So I wondered whether they were going to try to dive bomb them in or something into Bakhmut or wherever. I mean, we do know they've been destroying Bakhmut. We do know that. Okay, yeah, maybe it is lightning. People are saying there's lightning. Yeah, I didn't realize. I mean, no big deal, but I'll just have to, like I said, hide it from the dog. I'm looking here. Oh yeah, they're claiming rain. I'm not seeing rain, but they're claiming rain for the next 53 minutes. Okay, that must be what's going on then. Yeah, we got lightning. There we go. You guys are right. I was wondering because I just kept seeing the sky lightning up behind me, like right there again. It did it on TikTok. Very weird. Space. Those Jews with their space lasers. That's exactly right. So yeah, I don't know whether there's anything else with Bakhmut going on. I mean, the only thing with Bakhmut today, like I said, was they were talking about the fact that the Russians, the Wagner group and the Russian military were working better together, and they were progressing, and the Ukrainians were having to back up a little bit. They were having to pull out a little bit further out of Bakhmut. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Russians were trying to bomb the hell out of everything. It's quite possible. Thank you, Dolly. It's quite possible. Yeah. Anyway, all right, guys, I'm going to, I think, call it quits because we're at 7:15. It's been an hour and 15 minutes. Thank you for joining. Actually, this went well with just the Q&A. I appreciate that. I know we didn't, well, actually, there also wasn't that much news today because I read the news right before coming on with you. There just wasn't that much news anyway. But I'm traveling this weekend, so we will not be doing a coffee talk tomorrow. There's no recap because I've been doing Q&A with you guys. There's nothing to recap. Yes, the show will be at Mom's next week. So I will be doing from the wonderful paneling, Kalinita, Berlin, to you as well. I will see you guys Monday, same time, 6 p.m. It'll be my time, 5 p.m. Eastern or Central, but it'll be the same time, 6 p.m. Eastern. Exactly. I'm going to try not to get COVID. That would not be fun. And otherwise, I'll see you guys next week. Okay. And thank you for the gifts. Thank you for everything. Mods, I'm just curious, did we get as many trolls today or not? Yeah, he was charged with 2 counts of the Espionage Act. He's going to get charged with a lot more. Yeah. Yeah, Institute for Study of War is assessing Russians are reaching the city central with Milblog footage. As I said, a couple days ago, what's his name? I think it might have been Michael Clark or Sean. I think it was Michael Clark on Fox News, on Sky News, was saying that it looked like he thought Bakhmut may have had 3 or 4 within days. Bakhmut could fall, so it's quite possible. The thing to keep in mind: Bakhmut just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. So I mean, they'll give the Russians some bragging rights, which they're desperate to have. But they're going to brag about getting a town of 60,000 people that literally, well, nobody there left anyway, but literally gives them no advantage for going after the other towns. What is it? Kramatorsk and I think Sloviansk. It gives them no advantage for going after those towns that they've got to hit next. So, let the Russians claim, whatever. All right, guys. Oh my God. So I'm going to go clean. The last thing I want to do at night is clean. I'm going to do a little cleaning for Damien. Otherwise, I will see you guys on Monday. All right. With a different background for the next month. But I am bringing some auction items with, so we will still have auctions for our Discord. So, all right. Thanks, guys. See you Monday. All right. Good night. Good night, all. Thanks again.